Today on CityCast Nashville, we're talking about one of my favorite holiday traditions, the wrapping paper issue of The Contributor. The new issue is out with vendors today, so be sure to pick one up while you're out and about. Never heard of The Contributor? It's Nashville street paper sold by vendors experiencing homelessness and housing insecurity as part of an organization that provides wraparound services to folks in need. I'm thrilled to have Executive Director Will Connolly here to tell us more about their mission, alongside contributor columnist and former director of the Metro Homeless Impact Division, Judith Tackett, one of the city's staunchest advocates for our unhoused community. It's Wednesday, December 4th. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. My first interaction with The Contributor was several years ago when I was doing some holiday shopping with my mom, and we were at a red light, and she rolled down her window and bought a newspaper off of a guy standing on the side of the street. And she was so giddy because it was the wrapping paper issue. So we rushed home, and she was so excited to just show me the designs in this issue. And I ended up reading it cover to cover and was so impressed, and it really made a lasting impression on me. So for the people that don't know what I'm talking about, Will, what is The Contributor?
The Contributor has a special place in my heart. It's an organization that I helped found back in 2007. We were trying to change the panhandling dynamic and, get that reaction that you just described from your mom of like, we're excited to see this person versus, oh no, I'm going to get hit up for money. Like, what am I going to do? We realized, or we just witnessed how people who are unhoused, who are asking for money, didn't often feel good about what they were doing. They might experience some shame or guilt. And then the person who's being asked for money also doesn't feel great or isn't sure maybe how to react. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to offer a new way of doing things and seeing things and create a product that people could be proud of selling and just create opportunities for engagement and community. And it's like these little interactions that you just described can totally change someone's day or week or month, just like little things like basic recognition of someone. So it's a bi-weekly publication. And people who sell it, we call them vendors. They purchase each issue from us for 50 cents and then sell it for $2. And so the vendors themselves keep the profit and use it however they like. The wrapping paper issue that you mentioned is a seasonal thing, obviously, and something that we get excited about at The Contributor too, because it's like so fun for our editors put together and to see kind of like what designs are going to come out this year. It's just another way to engage potential customers. Like you can read the newspaper and learn about homelessness. You can also like wrap your gifts within the holidays. So it's pretty neat. One thing that also, like some folks don't know about The Contributor these days is that we provide services as well. And we have a housing team and we have a healthcare team. And those were services that we added during the pandemic when some of the COVID assistance came to our community.
That's wonderful. I have to ask, is it insulting to buy The Contributor? You're saying it's $2, but if I give, say, $10 or $20, is that insulting to the person actually selling the newspaper? It's their business, and it's not like I would go into the mall and pay more for a purse or...
So tips are encouraged. Yeah. So the sales price is $2. So when you sign up to become a vendor, you actually go through some pretty legit training. It only takes a couple of hours, but we go through a lot. And part of that training is, you're trained not to sell it for more than the list price, which is, again, $2. Mm-hmm. But we welcome tips. And many, many customers of The Contributor are so generous, especially when they use Venmo. So Venmo is something that people can use now to purchase The Contributor. And we've seen that when you use Venmo, it's usually you give closer to $5 an issue, just because it's like, it's easier, electronic. It's like, it's just easier to tip than like finding another dollar bill or two in your pocket.
Well, so we have a contributor to The Contributor here as well. Judy, you were formerly the director of the Metro Homeless Impact Division, and you regularly write articles and Q&As for the paper. What subjects do you focus on?
Well, thanks for having me. And I encourage everybody to pick up the Contributor and actually read it. One of the things before I go into what I've written about is really to highlight that it's also a voice for people experiencing homelessness. A lot of the vendors write a lot of the articles, and it's such a rich perspective that I really want to highlight here more so than whatever I put in there. So I do two things for the last couple of years. I've been contracting with the Contributor and contribute two columns. I started with Q&A with council members. I still do some of those, but now it's more city leaders, different department heads, and just people who have an impact on the city and how it's led. And the other column is learn more about, and then we do poverty issues. A lot of it is around homelessness, and I can get really critical of any local aspect of it. But I have to say, I feel I've been very nice so far, actually.
You hold your tongue? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Readers may not think so, but I feel so. But I also want to just be clear. It's not all about homelessness. It's also about stories of what is basic income pilots. What do they do? The ELLIS threshold is a term that United Way is using. What you actually need to just get around comfortably in the community. And the difference here in Tennessee is poverty line, something 27,000 for a family of four. And the ELLIS threshold is over 70,000 a year. So think of that difference. Even when you're poor, you can barely make it. I mean, just things like that. And domestic violence, it's a huge issue and also a huge contributor to homelessness.
Mm-hmm. So to say that you do not have to hold back here at CityCast Nashville, what would you like to say about how homelessness is handled here in our city?
I think, so for one, the really good news is we had a lot of money coming into homelessness. A lot of people have heard about the $50 million in ARP funding and infusion towards homelessness that the local government did under the Cooper administration. That $50 million was one-time funding from the federal government for a 3-year period. But in addition, Mayor O'Connell, when he was a council member, created and pushed for an Office of Homeless Services, separating it out from Metro Social Services, which increases the leadership abilities. And I think also highlights how important it is that we take care of our poorest neighbors that otherwise, and too many of them, a lot of them are still dying on our streets. Let's just be real here for a second.
Mm-hmm.
That office now has a budget of $6 million. So I used to be head of that office before it was a standalone office. And Bill used to be my boss there before I became
really?
the director. Yes. So we have that meta history. So I think that's the good news. The criticism I have, I truly believe that many tools that we have created and put in place, like a database, the resources we have right now, we should be more transparent, and we should actually, I think, serve more people than we do with the $50 million. And that's where some of my criticism has been in the column.
Maria, do you mind if I respond to that too?
Yes, please, absolutely.
Just piggybacking off of Judy, and Judy mentioned the Mayor O'Connell, and just right now, I'm feeling like so much hope around it all, and I just wanted to try to express that for a minute. And it's because of the transit referendum and the fact that we have a mayor who, his signature issue is transit and was able to get dedicated funding. I mention that because I believe that homelessness exists because of policy choices that we make and actions that we take or inaction. There's obviously a need for more housing in Nashville. And while we have the Barnes Fund now, we need more urgency. We need more money to build more housing and really address the gaps in housing that we have in Nashville, and not just for people who are unhoused, but all sorts of folks who are struggling to pay rent or really just to live in Nashville. And so it's hopeful that we can have a local leader come in and make that kind of difference. And I'm hoping that, we have another leader, maybe another mayor that, homelessness is their signature issue. It has become a signature issue of other politicians, mayoral candidates around the country who their top issue has to be homelessness because of the public outcry or other pressures. I don't obviously want that to be the case, but I'm just hoping that we do have that kind of transformational leader like that can help us continue to get the resources that Judy was just talking about, because we need more of them. I also think we just need more funders at the table from all sorts of departments in Metro and also in other, organizations, and that we're all working towards like a shared goal. I don't think we have that kind of shared strategic thinking yet. And I'm hoping that will change.
We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll dig into the state of things for our unhoused community here and ways our listeners can make a difference. So this stat just came about that the number of unhoused people in town, it's growing. The latest report from the city's Office of Homeless Services says 3,800 people experienced homelessness in Nashville at the start of this year, and that's up 1,000 from the previous year. Why do you think that number is growing?
So when you look at the homeless management information system and the database, I'm going to take one quick step back. So the reason why, and Will, I'm going to speak for you for just a second, why Will and I have such trust in Mayor Freddie O'Connell is because he's been the council member and he's been very supportive of our work when we were at Metro. And he's been instrumental when I took on the homeless management information system to make it functional for Nashville. He's been leading and chairing that committee and instrumentally making it functional and making it better and opening up the system so that providers can share information. Now, that's the homeless management information system that you just quoted some of the numbers from. Mm-hmm. Now, what happens, we got this done in 2019, where we got approved to actually how we collect data differently and clean up data and get more organizations to submit more data. And then COVID hit and all of that slowed down the whole data collection process and everything. And so it takes a few years once you actually get the tool, get the instrument ready to play with, basically. And I feel we are at that point right now. So I'm not saying homelessness isn't going up, but we are just starting to see baselines. One other data point that I have been observing is the point in time count. While I do not trust the numbers there, they're so limiting and they're just, especially outdoor count, there are issues with that because you only count once a year during a cold night, the people that you find, basically. So it's always a low number. But the methodology has been as problematic for the last, 4 years in a consistent manner, or for so many years that we can actually measure some of the trends. So together with these tools, one provides more actual numbers and the other one provides a little bit of trends. So you're right. Homelessness has still been going up. In the last 2 years, it's increased by between 9 and 10%. But prior to that, where we had fewer resources, it actually was slightly reduced. The trend was going down for years and years. And with the increase in resources, we really have to discuss. And I think that's the lack of the discussion and the systemic level discussion that we have right now to really look at, okay, why do we see an increase right now when we have more resources than ever? One is the lag of when we see results from resources. Housing takes time to build. And the other is also a potential increase of homelessness that's bigger than we may think. We don't know. We don't have these discussions locally. So we have the strong leader in Freddie O'Connell. Now we need the strong leader at the department levels and also in the mayor's office who's guiding those departments and the collaboration. I hope that will be a focus and a shift now that we have transit going and that we know how strong Freddie's leadership is. And that's my hope, because this is really a life and death situation, especially with the election, which we know will cut resources.
So, Judy, as the director of Nashville's Homeless Impact Division for 4 years, you stepped down. I do want to know why you did step down. What was your reasoning?
I felt I couldn't be the leader I needed to be and the city needed. It's as simple as that. It's sometimes time to just move out of the way when you bang your head against the wall. There was quite a little bit of uproar about it, and I didn't expect that at all. But I think that generated some push to actually get something done and get something done quickly and respond quickly and invest. I just, in an egotistical way, say it maybe urged them to invest a little bit quicker and sooner into homelessness with some of these money and dollars. Not that it wouldn't have happened anyway, but I think it wouldn't have happened in this, in a quicker, with some type of urgency or at this level.
How do you both feel about the current leadership at the Office of Homeless Services?
I'm very public. I am not a fan. I think there is not enough vision. It's too top down. And there's too many nonprofit leaders that come to me asking how the system works, and they should not even come to me. They should be able and comfortable to go to the leaders at the Office of Homeless Services. And I hope that's what's going to happen in the future. But at the same time, I feel I still need to be a critical voice out there to raise some questions, because we cannot always act like things are going great when the trust isn't there. Something is not going great. And in the end, people suffer. When we don't put the people that we are supposed to serve first, what are we doing?
Yeah, I have to just say, when it became a federal offense to sleep, outside, basically, I had a very big, personal moment as growing up here, going to church, being Christian, and then understanding Christian lawmakers were doing this. It just didn't make sense in my mind because we're supposed to be helping our neighbors. So it's a constant struggle in my heart about this here in the city that I love.
One of the things I want to make sure to give you a little hope there is that's really a statewide approach,
right?
That punishing and criminalizing homelessness. Nashville has been really good to actually protect that. I'm not a fan of the current encampment closure plan because it's touted as housing searches, and that's just not true. It's still an encampment closure plan. And I'm like, that's fine if that's what we're going to do, but then let's be honest about it. And as long as we house people and don't just keep beds open, which we are doing right now, those are some of the criticisms. What we're doing is not what we're saying we're doing.
Right. So, Will, after hearing about all these barriers and challenges, what's one way that our listeners can help right now?
Obviously, buying the paper when you see a vendor, maybe offering just some eye contact, a hello, and then taking the paper and reading it, because that vendor may actually have written something in the newspaper that could be poetry or nonfiction or a crossword puzzle or a comic or something that person is really proud of, or they might be really nervous that it's out there and in print. And then when you read it and you make a comment about it, it can really change someone's self-image and self-esteem. And you're putting money in their pockets as well for their hard work. So to me, when I see a vendor, I'm almost in awe of what they've gone through to be there. It's a really tough job to stand on the side of the road and try to sell the contributor. I mean, you get all sorts of reactions or no acknowledgement at all. Knowing that some of the stories of the vendors who are selling and then seeing them out there and doing it and making money that they will use to pay their rent and to buy food and clothing and transportation. How is that possible? That person is so strong, and an inspiration to me. That's the kind of feeling that I want to rub off on Nashville. People that have moved to Nashville that may not know about the contributor. We look forward to, meeting those folks and talking to them about all that our organization provides and all the work that the contributor vendors do on a daily basis.
Well, on behalf of all of Nashvillians, I thank you. I truly do. I speak for all of us, but I really, really thank you. And it really is a joy having this in our community.
Thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. And be sure to pick up a copy of The Contributor while you're out and about this holiday season. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!